This video concludes my coverage of Update 27.2's patch notes by covering the damage and status changes. Before I get to those though, there are a few minor changes to begin. DE have cleared low end count rewards such as 15 endo and 50 endo from drop pools, but they have kept the high low end rewards such as 80 endo. This doesn't just apply to endo but to credit caches too. Sentinel weapons can now use the exact same mods that you use on your weapons, so there is no longer a confliction. Titania has been updated to have 100 armor. You can now hold the Spellbind cast to receive its immunity for yourself. Tribute now has a gear wheel to select which buff to cast. Lantern is now static, and Razorwing has been updated to a new flight model to be in line with Skywing. Razorwing also received an effect update. Corrosive Projection, Shield Disruption, and Infested Impotence now have minus 18% stats applied to their respected faction debuff when at rank 5. Status chance mods, those being Rifle Aptitude, Melee Prowess, Sure Shot, and Shotgun Savvy, all offer plus 90% status chance to their respected weapon type. The infested enemies have received a melee damage buff, and enemy AI accuracy no longer scales based on their level. Self-damage has been removed entirely from Warframe, and its replacement comes in the form of the stagger system. The severity of the stagger will vary based on the weapon used, so keep that in mind. The staggers come in the form of a simple animation, a reload cancelling animation, all the way up to a recovery animation that will lock your movement. The recovery animation does have a short window of opportunity to exit, indicated by a pulse around your Warframe. It is a very small opportunity and you will need to use your jump key to execute it. This window has been added to all knockdowns in Warframe, plus DE have made it so we'll need to manually move in order to get back up from any knockdowns we experience. The recovery and stagger system has also been added to non-self-damage area of effect weapons alongside, at the time of the update's release, 90% damage falloff. The falloff also applies to all area of effect weapons. The falloff has since been adjusted per weapon thanks to a hotfix, which I'll cover later. Any mods that reference or affect self-damage have been converted to reference or affect staggers. It should also be mentioned that Cautious Shot has been changed to be rifle compatible, including the use on bows. No damage buffs were made to explosive weapons that previously dealt self-damage, but all area of effect weapons have had their range increased by 20%. Enemy armor, health, and shields have been changed so that it no longer scales exponentially, and now scales on an S curve. This means enemies will be less tanky at higher levels than they were before. Players no longer have any debuffs applied to them since DE made a Tenno health, armor, and shield type that at the moment of the update's launch has no negatives. We do have one positive, and that comes in the form of taking 25% less damage to our shields. We also have a 1-second recharge delay for our shields if our shields are partially damaged, and a 4-second recharge delay if our shields were completely depleted. Shield gating has launched for both us the player and enemy units with shields. In regards to the player, we will not take any health damage from a shot that would have previously one-shot us, if our shields are of course up. Now when hit with said shot, our shields will now deplete, we'll have a brief moment of invulnerability, and no damage will come to our health from that shot. It should also be mentioned that enemy slash procs as well as our own no longer bypass shields. As for enemy units, the same system applies, but instead of immunity to one-hit knockouts, 5% of the damage we dealt to a unit's shield will penetrate and damage their health. A headshot, or weak point shot, will bypass the shield gate mechanic on enemies. Now the Toxin status effect will continue to bypass shields, but as stated before, the slash status effect does not. The following Warframes had their armors buffed to the stated value. Ashe now has 100 armor, Ashe Prime 175, Banshee 100, Banshee Prime 125, Baruch 175. Ember 125, Ember Prime 150, Equinox 125, Equinox Prime 150, Gara 150, and Gauss 175. Harrow 175, Hydroid 225, Hydroid Prime 275, Inaros 225, Ivara 100, Ivara Prime 125, and Limbo 100. Limbo Prime 125, Loki 100, Loki Prime 125, Mag 100, Mag Prime 125, Mesa 100, and Mesa Prime 125. Mirage's armor is now 100, Mirage Prime 125, Necros 100, Necros Prime 125, Nezha 190, and Nova 100. Nova Prime is at 125, Nyx 100, Nyx Prime 125, Oberon 175, Octavia 150, Revenant 125, Rhino 225, Trinity 100, Trinity Prime 125, Valbin 150, Valbin Prime 200, Volt 100, and Wisp 175. Lastly, Zephyr has 100 armor, and Zephyr Prime's armor is now 125. Weapons with status chance above 100% will now have a chance to proc 2 status effects on a shot, with 200% status chance guaranteeing a double proc. DE have added a multi-shot UI stat to the arsenal display, separating it from the stat for status. The status chance for shotguns has been increased by 3 times, with status chance per pellet displayed as a stat in the UI. Status on shotguns has also received new calculations, which means 100% status chance will no longer provide a major improvement. Now to finish with the status and damage type changes. DE have removed the impact, puncture, and slash proc weighting, which means all status effects now have the same chance to proc. With this update, you can also now stack multiple procs for improved status effects. The amount of stacks will appear alongside the unit's name and above its health bar. The slash status effect will no longer bypass shields and will now only bypass armor. Each status effect has its own duration, and the UI will display 10 stats even though more occur. The impact status effect now staggers enemies more so than before, and with each added impact proc onto an enemy, they will progress further through the stagger process, eventually at 5 procs getting knocked down. As of recording this script, DE have stated changes will be coming to the impact status effect due to feedback about the knockdown. The Puncture status effect reduces the enemy's damage by 30%, with each added proc decreasing their damage by 5%, with it capping at minus 75% damage dealt. Each Puncture status will last for 6 seconds. The Cold status effect will slow an enemy by 25%, with each added Cold proc increasing the slow by 5%, up to a total of 70% at 10 Cold procs. Each Cold status effect will last for 6 seconds. Heat has seen no changes with this revision, due to it recently receiving an update. The Toxin status effect, as mentioned earlier, will continue to bypass shields, and each proc will last for 6 seconds. They also stated that the 25% bonus to armor has been removed. The Electric status effect's AoE damage can now reoccur and be stacked via more procs. The Blast status effect will now reduce the enemy's accuracy by 30%, and with each new proc, the accuracy debuff will increase by 5% to a maximum debuff of 75% at 10 procs. Each Blast status effect will last for 6 seconds. The Corrosive status effect will now strip 26% of the unit's armor, and with each new proc, the armor debuff will increase by 6% to a maximum armor strip debuff of 80% at 10 procs. Each Corrosive status effect will last 8 seconds. The Radiation status effect will now make affected enemies deal 100% damage to their allies, with each added proc increasing their damage output by 50% up to a maximum of 550% damage to their allies. Each Radiation status effect will last 12 seconds. The Magnetic status effect will deal 100% additional damage to shields, with each added proc increasing the damage output by 25% up to a total of 325% additional shield damage. When an enemy is affected by the Magnetic status effect, the enemy's shield can no longer regenerate. Each Magnetic status effect will last 6 seconds. The Viral status effect will now deal 100% additional damage to health, with each added proc increasing the damage output by 25% up to a maximum of 325% additional health damage. Lastly, the Gas status effect no longer deals Toxin status effects on its area of effect clouds, as the clouds now deal gas damage. Each Gas status effect will last 6 seconds. Now that concludes my coverage of update 27.2 after its release on PC. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.